This is a really special treat for me. Today is my birthday, and there is no place I would rather be than right here on this stage right now. So we're going to kick things off a little bit. We've got John is on his way. He's coming in the back entrance, of course. It's John Carpenter, so forth. But I'm going to get everybody up here so we can get this thing going. So without further ado, let me introduce to you the very lovely Alexandra Paul, Keith Gordon, John Stockwell, and John Ostrander. Sorry, William Ostrander. I said John Stockwell and then I threw myself off. I'm sorry about that. Okay, guys, I apologize. We have one extra mic, so we're going to have you guys share that if you could. But we're all friends here, so. Let's start off by talking a little bit about how you all came to be involved in this movie. I mean, was this something that they approached you for? Was this something that you found out about and you wanted to be a part of it? You know, how exactly did you get involved with Christine to start with?
We're going way down the line.
Casting call, and got brought into it, and I thought it was kind of funny. If you want to hear a small story, Karen Ray was the casting director, and she called me in because she met me on another film, and she said, I think you're perfect for this role. I'd like you to take the script home and then come in tomorrow and meet John. I said, that's great. So I took the script home, and if any of you have ever read movie scripts, you know that they usually have a character description before they introduce the character. And as the character Buddy Repperton was written in the screenplay, it said, Buddy Repperton is tall and broad-shouldered with a hank of dirty blonde hair tied back in a ponytail and a mean and stupid-looking face. And I thought, that's great, I'm perfect for that. So, unfortunately, I made it. And my claim to fame is I beat Nick Cage out for the role.
All right. I think I was cast before you. No? Were you cast? I think I got cast. And I had done, I don't know what I'd done. I hadn't done Top Gun. I got cast through reading for John, and then we went around and I read with a number of actors that were reading for Keith's role. And my only vivid story is someone I think came in to read for your role, and they brought in a real knife or a gun or something.
Was it Nick Cage?
Yeah, it was Nick Cage. And poor John just stopped the audition. I was like, all right, this is bullshit. Just put the gun away and then kick the guy out. That's my only interesting anecdote.
Wow. I don't have anything that dramatic. Basically, I got the part the way it usually works in Hollywood. I slept with John, and no, it was just a casting thing where I got the script and I read the script and I flipped out because I thought, oh my God, how much fun would this be? And I was already a huge fan of John's work because I'm a film fan as much as I'm a film person. So I was just nervous going in to meet him, but I did the whole thing where I went in with a change of clothes for the two sides of Arnie, and I had like my nerdy outfit and my crazy outfit, and we just had a lot of fun in the audition. And they called me back like a day later, and I read again, and that was sort of it. It was, often with movies you have to go through like 5, 6, 7, 8 auditions, but in my case it was pretty fast, and I just felt really lucky and excited, and then it turned out to be as much fun as I would have. So that's mine.
Wow, my story is about my hair. I auditioned, casting call for a high school girl, and before the last audition, the casting director told my agent, tell her to do something with her hair. So I guess I wasn't looking that good. So I asked my roommate to help me, teach me how to curl my hair, because I didn't know how to do it. So she dutifully does, but on the day of the audition, she had exams. She went to UCLA, so I had to do it myself. So I washed my hair and I put in curlers, and I drive to the audition and take the curlers out right before I go into the audition. You know, women here know you're supposed to dry your hair before you put it in curlers. And I didn't do that. I left it wet, so I took out the curlers. My hair was totally wet and straight, and I looked horrible, but I obviously had to go to the audition anyway, and he cast me, so I guess it wasn't that important.
William, if I could ask you, the car is such a beautiful car. You get to basically destroy that car. That moment was it hard getting up there and just beat the hell out of that thing?
Not at all.
Not at all?
No, I mean, how many opportunities do you have to do something like that? Unless it's a rental car and you have full coverage. No, I mean, what a great experience to get up there and wail on this thing. And you couldn't feel too guilty. There was an entire body shop built at that location solely for the purpose of restoring those vehicles because they had destroyed so many of them at that time. that vehicle actually had to be repaired and made right to finish the movie.
How many cars did they use total? I heard a big number, it seemed like. 21?
21 cars that were purchased. If you mind, 19 of them were running at one time, and 2 of them were used just for, or cannibalized just for parts.
Yeah. And you all didn't get to walk away with at least one of those?
One of the producers has one of them. Richard Coberts has had one of them. The producer, Richard Coberts, got one of them, I know, and then, of course, William Gibson over here so generously bought his Christine.
Which you can see inside the dealer's room, by the way.
So, yeah,
Absolutely
I really recommend taking a look at his display. It's beautiful.
None of them ran that well. Remember, they would always breaking down and...
I didn't drive them. I was only the passenger seat, choking, but other than that.
Well, the thing was they were great cars, but they had this push-button transmission, which was not one of Detroit's great design ideas, and so I was always having to get in the car and drive away in a scene, and you'd push the drive button and nothing would happen, and the car was... There's probably hours of footage somewhere of me sitting there pushing this thing with a frozen smile on my face, kind of. But when it ran beautifully. But it was, and they actually, with the cars, they did different versions of the cars. I mean, because they knew they would need them to do different things, so there were cars that were built to be on fire. There were cars that were built to be extra strong so they could be banged into by other objects and not dent. There were cars that were built to be the cars that repaired themselves. So there was this whole fleet of Christines, but there were actually specific ones that had different strengths depending on what they were going to need in the film.
Yeah, they had different names on the call sheet. You'd see, you know, for props, it would say Muscle Christine 1, Muscle Christine 2, or I don't know what the cars were for, wrecked up, beat up Christine 3, whatever they needed.
Yeah. Well, let's bring in the man of the hour here. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to introduce Mr. John Carpenter. Well, John, we've just been talking a little bit about the process of pulling this movie together and all the cars that were used in the process of this, and William beating the hell out of Christine, of course, which he loved. So I guess to kind of kick it off for you, how did this project in particular come about for you? Was this something that you pursued originally, or was it something that came to you with? How did this get started for you? There's like a wild auction going on right outside the door. Yeah, there's cattle or something being auctioned.
I had made a movie before Christine that tanked at the box office. It was called The Thing. El Tanko. So I needed a job. And my producer, Richard Coberts, said, "Have you read this new Stephen King book? It's about a haunted car." And I thought, oh boy, a haunted car. It had been done. I thought, what am I going to do differently? So I got involved in it because I needed a gig, and I hired this fabulous cast, 2 of whom have become young auteurs in their own right. Stockwell and Gordon are directors. And it came about because it was an assignment at Columbia. So a friend of mine, Bill Phillips, wrote the screenplay, and we went out and shot it, and I hired these bums here.
Now, how important was it for you to, obviously, every Stephen King book that gets made into a movie, at some point or another, goes through changes, because either the book is like 20,000 pages long, or there's reasons that they can't include everything. And it seemed to me like Christine, for the most part, was rather faithful to the book. But there are certain subtle changes, particularly towards the end. How important was it for you to keep a lot of this as close to the book as possible, or as close to Stephen's vision as possible?
Well, Christine, the novel, had really great characters in it, so we didn't have to go very far away from that. But it had the rotted corpse of the former owner sitting in the back seat talking to Keith all the time. I thought, I don't know about that. That might be really stupid. So maybe we'll let Keith carry that part on, by himself, rather than having a conversation with this dead guy. So that's one of the big things we changed. And we wanted to have some big ending where the car gets butt fucked. So that's what
I want to make sure that you guys get a chance to ask some questions. So if you have questions, raise your hand and we'll try to get around to everybody if we can. Does anybody want to kick this off with a question right here? How about you?
Keith, could you talk about Robert Prosky? Just what he was like and
Keith,
his
talk about
process
Robert.
was with him?
Oh, to talk about Robert Prosky. Well, Prosky was both a brilliant actor and a sweet guy. I mean, it's funny, so many character actors were great at playing the meanest, most awful sons of bitches or like the nicest people. And that was certainly Robert. And he was just delightful to work with. He was funny. He came from his great stage background and had played every great role in the world. And just, man, it was fun to work with him. And he died a couple of years ago, which was really sad. I'd always wanted to get a chance to work with him again and never did. But he was wonderful, and he brought so much life to that guy. I mean, just that deep voice that he had and all that, And none of that was Robert. I mean, Robert couldn't be more different from that guy, but he was great.
Thank you.
Next one. What do we got? Right over here.
Hi, John. You were a composer as well as a director, and I know a lot of times in the process of doing a film, when you're managing the composer, there's a whole timeline. How does the timeline change when you're both directing and writing a score for a film?
Well, I don't really write a score because I've sort of forgotten how to write music, so it's all improvised. So in the case of Christine, we cut the movie together, and I go off to a studio with a bunch of synthesizers and just start ad-libbing music to the movie. And there's one scene between actually the two of them. They're sitting in a car with a big dialogue scene. And I wrote this piece of music that just keeps continuing. It just doesn't have an end to it. It's descending chords. I remember the sound mixer says, we can play this over anything. It'll work over anything. So my job is like I lay carpet in your house. I put carpet underneath your feet so that you walk and it's comfortable. That's what I do for the movie. I put carpet under a scene. If it's tension, I put that under there. I try to give some mood and elevate the scene as much as I possibly can.
This kind of begs an interesting question that I've been wondering about. I've always enjoyed your music in movies. Have you ever thought about doing like a self-contained, the music of John Carpenter, and maybe even take your take on some classic movie themes?
No.
Okay, that answers that question. Next. Did I see one? I thought I saw one over here. You guys all have questions? All right, right. We got somebody down. No, it's right down there. Okay.
And do any of you recall that? Or do you remember?
George Thorogood, the guy who sang Bad to the Bone, had a scene in the movie at the end of the film. And it was with the writer, Bill Phillips, and we cut it out because they couldn't act.
He still walks by.
Oh, he's still in the film. He plays the guy with the boombox at the very end, but he just doesn't have dialogue.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct. That's right.
Did you? He had a scene.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They had reactions. Oh, it was unbelievable.
John, I know there was a lot of scenes that were deleted from the film that ended up on the special edition DVD that came out. At the time, was it really painful to have to take some of those scenes out of the movie, or was it more of just kind of it made sense at the time to adjust it that way?
It was just that it made sense. There were a couple scenes I wish we could have kept, but there was one where you pull up behind them. It was a real cool scene. I think it was because of your performance that we took it out.
It's hung over.
Oh, you're wearing it? No, not really. There was one scene that Keith did that was really great. I wanted to leave in, but powers that be thought, well, let's don't put that in there. So, but generally we kept everything in.
Did you test it?
No.
Those days
Didn't
weren't
test in
tested?
those cases. No.
How do you feel that the sensibilities, and this is for everybody, how do you feel the sensibilities of horror films today have changed in comparison to the early 1980s? You know, obviously it was a very different time.
I didn't even hear it.
Nobody wants to take this one.
The sensibilities. Well, John has made a recent horror film. And how's it, and tell me seriously, how's it different from the old days? Hang on.
Well, I found it's very difficult to keep up these days. I mean, I made a movie called Turistas, and at the same time, they were making a movie sort of concurrently. I didn't know about it, called Hostel. And when I went to see Hostel, I was like, I don't know if I can, you know, the torture porn thing just wasn't for me, and it was hard. It was a sinking feeling because I knew it would do well and that we would be considered to be imitators. But I don't know. It's a world in which I remember first seeing Halloween and just being so blown away by it. A lot of it is just tone and mood and what you don't see and tension, and that's harder and harder to get by with. So, John.
It's fabulous, John. I couldn't say it any better than that. What do you think?
Well, I guess for me, and there are exceptions, but what I remember from the films of the 70s and the 80s, and you know, and your films always had this, was there was a sense of irony, there was a sense of a larger social point often going on, and you know, They Live or Escape from New York, or you know, that horror films weren't just about making an audience jump. There was something else going on, and they were often very intelligent movies. And I feel like too often now, and there are exceptions, but too often the film exists only to shock, and often in a horror porn sort of way. It's like, how gross can you get? And I think that's sad, because it used to be a vehicle where you could be very subversive and introduce some really interesting ideas, and that's what I loved about your films. And I feel like, no, The Thing had that. I mean, and I feel like now you try to do that in the studios run screaming. I mean, I'm in the middle of working on a script that's kind of at a horror theme, and all the things they want to take out are all the things that attracted me to it, all the ideas, basically. So,
I would say just one thing that I'm not an expert like these guys, but one of the things that maybe some of you know about John, maybe some of you don't, is this guy's got a wicked sense of humor. And I think that the odd thing is you see that wicked sense of humor if you look at individual snippets in the film. Maybe if you know the circumstances, I don't know, like in Christine, when that he buys the car and the guy's walking around with this cage on his chest and spitting and stuff like that. To me, if you isolate that without the context, that's kind of funny. And I kind of thought that John, who told me when I said, why am I running down the middle of the road? He said, because it's a movie. There's a certain level of humor that I think that he has. He doesn't take the genre so seriously or something, that those things come through, and I think he's got a very unique imprimatur. That's what I would say about that.
Alexandra, have you ever made another horror film besides this? Have you made another one?
I did do...
Hang on.
I did 2 films for Corman. One was Piranha with William Catt, who's here today. It was a remake. And another one, I can't remember its name. But I got crazy. And I became evil. And that was fun to do. And then I did The Paperboy, which was a slasher, Paperboy gone bad. But Christine remains my favorite, John. I'm scared. I'm one of those, I asked people yesterday, do you get scared watching these movies? I get so scared. I had to walk out of Dress to Kill, out of the theater, not just cover my eyes because I was so scared. And then I had to walk back in when the scene was over. So I'm just so, and some of you said, no, I don't get scared at all. And some of you said, yeah, I love it. I think you guys are all awesome. I mean, this is a whole new world for me, and I'm so honored to be here. Really, we all are actually. We're all virgins here in the horror convention world, and we're so happy to be deflowered by you all.
Hooray for virgins. Now, if I could ask, what was the mood like on the set when you were shooting Christine? I mean, obviously this can't be an easy picture to make. I mean, there's a lot of different things logistically that are going on. What was the mood like when you guys were filming this with John?
There's a lot of night shoots.
Once again, going back to Mr. Carpenter's sense of humor, there was a running gag on the film that Richard Cobras was being teased that there was this nut job that was coming on the set. And he would come on the set, and I don't know who it was that you had lined up to do.
There was a gang called, there was a street gang called the Clover Gang.
He knows the story.
Yeah, but basically, there was this thing that went on forever where they convinced Richard, the producer, that there was a street gang in LA, because we were shooting in some of the tough areas of LA, and there was a street gang called the Clover Gang, and they hated movie producers. And they had targeted him. And then John had somebody in the crew dress up in this gang outfit, like one of the gaffers with these big guys, and kind of hang around on the outskirts of where we were shooting and stare at Richard all the time. And then if I remember right, what happened was the next episode, Richard said, we've got to get extra security. So we called in security, and you got somebody, it was like somebody's grandfather. It was like some 90-year-old person came down and said, I'm not going to mess with the Clover Gang. You kidding? If they want you, you're dead. It was wonderful. It was so cool. And that was the thing. I mean, making this movie was an absolute blast, and that was what John established. I mean, there's a certain kind of sense of fun on the set that was something that the biggest thing I took away. If I ever get to direct a movie, I want my set to feel like this set, because it was fun to go there. You know, I'd go in the morning with a smile, and it was exciting. And you didn't know what was going to happen, and you'd hide the microphone. I remember driving the poor sound guy insane hiding his microphone, but all that stuff really was important for the movie, because part of what I think the movie works is that it has a sense of humor, and part of that sense of humor came out of the set, the tone that you established on the set, and also for us as actors, at least for me as an actor, it made me feel free to try stuff, because I didn't feel like somebody was going to spank me if I did something wrong. You know what I mean? It was a sense of, hey, we're having fun, we're making a movie, and that really I think helped the movie work.
Yeah, I just want to add that one of the great things about working with John, from my point of view, hope I'm not sucking up too much here, but was I would say to him, hey, do you want this A, B, or C? And he'd go, let's try B. I go, okay, and we do it that way, and 9 times out of 10 he was cool with that. Or sometimes he'd say, well, let's try an A too, because that one wasn't maybe quite what I want. But it was really great, because some directors sort of get a little too intense with their work with you, and John was really great about trusting you and just saying, hey, I hired you for a reason, so what are you going to do? I'd say A, B, or C. He'd go, let's do that. And I liked that. That was really fun.
I have a question for you guys. When you were acting, did directors ever give you line readings? Did they ever tell you how to read a line or say a line? I'm curious.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I've had it, and I've actually sort of unconsciously done it, because I'm sitting there mouthing the lines behind the camera. But it's not. I mean, it's very disconcerting when it happens. I never got it from you. You told me once that I was doing something weird with my mouth.
Well, you do.
I know. He's like, you're doing something with your mouth, and I was like, what is it? He goes, forget it. You know. But no, the greatest memory I have, because it was all pre-visual effects and pre-green screen, is everything we did. If you're supposed to be going 90 miles an hour in a car, John would strap the front of the car to the front of a big rig, and we'd go 90 miles an hour down the road. There wasn't any green screen. If we blew up a car, we blew up the car, and you felt the heat if you were going to. That was the only sort of quasi special effect, was that the car, we had this whole hydraulic system that John filmed in reverse, so that it looked like the car was repairing itself. In fact, the hydraulics were pulling it in and crumpling it. So.
Yeah, no, I agree that the fact that in those days you actually could see the effects as an actor, I mean, it really made a difference. I mean, when we did the, okay, show me shot, and that the car really did rise up in front of me, and it wasn't just staring at a blank wall and pretending it was there. That's something I think that's been a little bit lost, that there's something about real physical effects, something really happening. And I just think CGI can be great, but man, if you can make it happen, that's really exciting. And Christine they made stuff happen. It was magic. It was movie magic, so.
Yeah, you can't fake the tangible aspects of it, yeah. All right, questions right here.
I just have two.
Yes.
One for John. Did Stephen King come on the set? And if he did, how was he? Was he different?
No, he never came on the set.
He did not?
Nope.
Wow. And the rest is for the cast. What did you guys beg, borrow, and steal for memorabilia from the set? For your own keepsakes, if anything?
Don't tell anybody, but I have a car in the back.
I barely got out of there with my own things. I'm not sure I took anything, but Keith?
Well, I ended up with a couple. I took one of the jackets, which I'm actually auctioning at the auction.
Right outside here?
Yeah. I had that in the back of my closet, and I thought, I'm never going to wear this, and if it means something to a fan, then that's kind of, And then I just took just little things, key rings, I don't know, just, the biggest, my favorite stuff is I just got a lot of photographs. The set photographer was really wonderful, and she got a lot of amazing stuff. And so I got a whole bunch of photographs that weren't the official photographs, and they're just beautiful of everybody and all the stuff that we did. And that's the stuff that I really look back at and treasure, But I didn't really take a lot of actual memorabilia. Do you have anything?
No, I don't have anything. I didn't realize what I was in when I was in it. It was my second film, and I was very young, and I had no idea. And here we are, 27 years later. But just to give a little plug, I kept the script that I have. So that script is going to be auctioned at the auction. It has all my notes in it. I have actor notes, and I also have some of the schedules that say muscle, Christine muscle car for when, telling us when to get our butts onto the set and stuff like that. So that's what I kept.
Right over here on the wall.
Hi, Mr. Carpenter. Did you purposely leave Christine a bloodless film? Did you want it that way, or was it written? Did you do that because of the reaction from the thing?
There was a little blood. Some of it when he came through the windshield, that whole bit, when you were dying, he jumped up and grabbed her.
Did you tone down the violence, though, or is it just written that way?
No. It's sort of written that way.
Okay, right here.
John, you're both directors. You did Teresa's, you did A Midnight Clear for big actors. And the drama that you guys have to build on that, I mean, you worked with the best drama and suspense director ever. So, I mean, what did you take from his direction and incorporate that into yours?
What did you take from John Carpenter's direction?
No, John was, first of all, I worked with another director who I always said gave great dailies. I would go watch dailies, and there would always be these incredible single take shots, and then I saw the final product and was sort of very underwhelmed and amazed at how much everything was chopped up. And my experience working with John is he runs a really efficient set. It's the the Clint Eastwood mode of just getting the job done. But the final product is really, as an actor, it's not so much. It became important to me that sometimes sets that were really fun, or the director was trying to be best friends with the actors, oftentimes later on the product was not as interesting as you thought it was when you were doing it. And some of the sets that have been a little, more, you have a director who really knows what he wants, and that in the end is what I took out of it. So it's, like I said, I try to, on set I feel like I'm an actor's director, but at the end of the day, my biggest response to the actors is to deliver a good movie.
Well, and for me, it's funny, it was sort of the other side of it, because that's what I was saying before, that there was, the sense of playfulness that I felt with John, and the fun that I had. Yeah, they like me, that's why. But it was really that, that I actually, there was a whole tone in that movie. I mean, I just remember the way that the cast and the crew would sort of eat together. There was a kind of, there wasn't some of the class structure that I think I felt on some film sets. There was a sense of we were all in this together. It wasn't a big budget film. I mean, that's the thing to remember. It was put out by Columbia, but it was a negative pickup, so it wasn't like a big expensive movie with all the fancy stuff. It was a fairly limited budget film comparatively, and it just had that feeling we were all in it together. So that was something that I thought, man, if I ever get to make a movie, I want to bring that to my films. The other thing was, yeah, I love the way John directed actors, and it's funny because sometimes it was by not over-directing us, and it was by seeing what we did, and then just making adjustments. And there's a real temptation as a young director, you want to control everything. And it was here I was seeing somebody who was known for having a very tight control of his films, and yet giving us a lot of freedom within that, so that we could try things and explore things. And then if he didn't like it, he could kick our butt and get it back to where he needed it to be. But there was a lot of freedom within that, I mean, I was playing this part that was going this huge range, and he let me try a lot of stuff. And if it didn't work, he'd tell me. And that was a big lesson in terms of dealing with actors later.
The one thing I haven't learned, and I wish I had, is you use shot lists and storyboards, don't you? Sometimes. I've never been able to do it. And it's been a real, I mean, producers and studios are always having a problem with me because I don't do it as efficiently with, especially with action sequences as I should, so. I didn't think
Right here.
What stands out in your mind as one of your favorite things in the experience of
There are a couple of scenes that I'm really proud of that I think are really neat. One is the scene, it's after the drive-in, when Alexandra and Keith are in the porch of her house, I believe it's raining really hard. I really like that scene. I like what they did with the scene. It just has a great feel to it. And then I like the scene where Malcolm is running from the car under these underpass area. I think that's cool. I'm happy that those scenes turned out well.
Over here.
I'm not sure any other horror film director has had more of his films remade or planned to be remade. How does that make you feel as a director, and do you ever have really any say in what they do with it?
Yeah, it makes me feel happy. Especially when the company that is making it sends me a check. If another director is going to make a movie, if either of these two gentlemen were going to remake a film, it's their movie. It's not mine anymore. So I would only get involved if I was asked. And no one's ever asked me, so I stay away. Make your own film. You know, there's only one director on the movie. It's your movie, so you got to make it.
What have you thought of them? Like Assault on Precinct 13?
I liked Assault on Precinct 13. I thought it was okay. It was a pretty good director, a great cast. Some of the other films, I have no comment on.
Well, going off of that, can I ask you how you feel about this new version of The Thing that's coming out, which is supposedly based directly on your vision of what you did before?
The producer is very nice. Eric Newman, he called me into his office, said we want to do this, and we want to do the story of the Norwegian camp, which in my story happened before my story began. So I said, it's the same speech I just gave. Well, you know, great.
Send me a check.
Send me a check.
Right here in the green shirt.
Can you tell me a little bit about the genesis of the thing and the process of making it?
Genesis of The Thing.
Well, have you heard of a movie called The Thing from Another World? That was made in 1951. It was one of my favorite movies when I grew up. And Universal came to me and said, you want to remake this? And I thought, I don't want to do that. Because I'm following in the shadow of one of my favorite directors. It's Howard Hawks. He produced The Thing, but sort of co-directed it with the director named Christian Nyby. So I thought, what are we going to do? I can't do that movie. It's dated, number one, and it has this style that's hard to pull off. It's overlapping dialogue style. It has to be written out. So one actor will say a line that the audience needs to hear, and then we'll put something that doesn't matter on the end of it. Then the other actor slides underneath with something that doesn't matter and say the line the audience needs to hear. It takes a lot of rehearsal time. So I decided I'm not going to do that. And so we went back to the pulp story that the movie was written. Who Goes There? And made that.
Okay, we got time for, I think, one more. Can we make it a Christine question? It was a Christine question. Over here. Sorry, Aaron.
Yes, sir. During the time, this is John and the rest of the cast, during the time that you're making this movie, did you ever get a feeling like at some point during the movie before it was completed, you know what, I think maybe somewhere down the road this is going to be a hit and it's going to stand out? Or did you think that, well, you know what, this is just another job I'm doing? You know you think a hit?
No.
No to what? Did you think it was going to be a hit? Oh, I don't think one. I mean, I didn't think Top Gun was going to be a hit. I didn't think Christine. I have enough experience with movies that aren't, and the vast majority are not. So it's a much safer bet to say no.
Yeah, I mean, it is true. I mean, 9 out of 10 films, even if they're good films, don't make money. So I don't think most of you think about it while you're working on it. I don't, I knew I thought it was going to be a cool movie, but I had no idea what the world was going to think or who was going to go to it or not. Or, you just want the movie to be good, and then it's up to like the luck of the draw as to what the weekend is, what the weather is like the weekend the movie opens, and if the Super Bowl is on that weekend. You can't control so much of that stuff. But I did have the feeling it was going to be a good movie, and that was all you can hope for.
Well, when I'm working on a movie, no matter what it is, I always think it's the best thing that I could be doing that moment. And I've done a lot of movies that aren't good, but I still think that they're the best thing. I work the hardest on them. So that's how I felt about Christine at the time, is that this is the only place I want to be. But I never would have imagined that we'd be sitting here 27 years later talking about it with all of you. And plus, in terms of, is it going to make money? And so I'm an actor. I wasn't thinking that far ahead, too. I mean, I was just thinking, trying to make it through the day.
John, you want to add to this? Did you? Okay.
I also think so much of Christine is made in the edit room. So, I mean, that's what I've learned as a director is so much of storytelling and movie making is you learn more in the edit room than you do on the set, usually.
So, John, when you came here today and you found out that you were going to be at a convention that is on John Carpenter Freeway, did you just really think we pulled out all the stops?
Is that thing real? What is that?
No, it really is called John Carpenter Freeway.
Cool.
Yep. You own it, I think. So. Yeah, hey, send him a check. Okay, stay right here, guys. But just real quickly, let's get a big hand for the entire cast of Christine and John Carpenter. Very special thank you to you guys coming today. And John, yeah, definitely. Standing over there. Absolutely. John, I said this before you came in the room. I said this before you came in the room. Today is my birthday, and there's no place I would rather be than with you guys up here right now. We've got a special treat for you. Chester's going to come on up here. He's got a little something he wants to present to you.
Back during the first Texas Frightmare Weekend, I had the idea of getting kind of on the ground floor of the convention, honoring someone in the horror industry, because no one can watch the Academy Awards and see our favorite horror heroes get lifetime achievement. And this year, I got an email in my inbox that said John Carpenter, Texas Frightmare Weekend, and I wouldn't have even been a horror fan if it wasn't for seeing Halloween and the fog and the thing and everything else. So proudly, like you said, this is your name, my birthday, but it's kind of like my birthday. I get to present on behalf of Texas Frightmare Weekend and all of you amazing horror fans, Lifetime Achievement Award, Texas Frightmare Weekend, to the man himself, Mr. John Carpenter.
Thank you so much, guys. We got to get